Jacob Rees-Mogg, who now leads the European research group of Tory Eurosceptics. Now, two backbenchers. I guess if there are grumblings or any sense of unease coming from both of you, then Theresa May's probably bang on, isn't she, doing something absolutely right? Let me just turn to Jacob Rees-Mogg. Do you trust the PM has your best interests at heart, your party, your Brexit?
Oh, yes, of course I do. I completely trust the Prime Minister, and I actually agree with a lot of what Mrs Morgan was saying in relation to the need for unity and for the government to set out what its end state is going to be. That there may be bits of the end state that I don't like, there may be bits of the end state that Mrs Morgan doesn't like, but what we need to know is where they aim to get, and then we can have a proper discussion, rather than having the Chancellor saying one thing and the collective Cabinet view being another.
What is your group then, in the Times splash tomorrow, saying they give her a 50-50 chance? I mean, it doesn't sound like a ringing endorsement, does it?
Well, that's nothing to do with me. I haven't said that. But
you understand where they're coming from, or do you think you have dissent within your own
No, there are always people with different views in a party.
No, but this isn't within the party. This is actually within the group that you head, isn't it?
But the ERG doesn't have a single view. The one thing we are collectively supportive of is the Lancaster House speech and the manifesto, and we want to back the Prime Minister in implementing that. Whether individual members speculate on the party leadership or not is nothing to do with me.
Is your support for her qualified when you talk about on the basis of Lancaster House, on the basis of what she said? I mean, were you happy with what Michel Barnier had to say to the Prime Minister today? Will you continue to support her if she lets that transition deal go ahead?
The terms laid down today in the transition deal are very bullying from the European Union. They are very harsh terms. They would require us to continue to allow free movement of people, even when we'd left.
What most people expected, isn't it? That was what most people expected under Lancaster House.
We would take, for the first time since 1066, laws imposed on us by a foreign power without having any say over it ourselves. Now, that may be acceptable if we have a clear idea of what the end point is.
So you would put up for that for 2 years if you knew what was coming afterwards?
If we had any idea what's coming afterwards. But we heard talk that we might stay in a customs union rather than the customs union and not get the advantages of Brexit, that we may have a high degree of regulatory alignment, which means remaining an EU rule taker and not getting the benefit of removing tariffs and non-tariff barriers on food, clothing and footwear, 21% of the average household's economy, that would have the opportunity to make everybody in this country better off.
So
it's a really
Jacob,
exciting opportunity if we grasp it.
It is qualified, though. Your support will remain qualified.
My support for the Prime Minister on a personal level as Prime Minister is absolute. It's unqualified. Of course, there are aspects of policy where I want to see the Prime Minister implement what she has already said. And as the Prime Minister is a very forthright and clear person, I expect she will implement the policy she's set out. Let
me just ask you about this story that's breaking in BuzzFeed announced. They have seen the impact of Brexit from the government's own analysis, EUX's analysis, cross-Whitehall briefing, they say, and under the government's own assessment, a comprehensive free trade agreement with the EU, UK growth would be 5% lower over the next 15 years. If there was a no-deal scenario and it was WTO rules, it would reduce by 8%. They say from what they have seen, the UK would be worse off outside the European Union under every scenario modelled in every part of the UK. Your response to that?
The key phrase is every scenario modelled, and it depends on the basis of the model. If they use the same type of gravity models that the Treasury used prior to Brexit, those were comprehensively wrong. It predicted an increase in unemployment just by voting to leave of 500 to 800,000.
So the government's own model might be completely wrong
on the basis of these gravity models. And the key there is the assumption of the tariffs you apply to goods coming into the EU. And I don't know about these models, but the ones done before the Brexit vote assumed we would apply the common external tariff to EU trade with the UK. And that sort of thing makes these models highly speculative and so far very inaccurate.
Thank you.